Today's advanced PD class, we're going to start with a machine called PWNLAB. And over here, we can see the IP address of that machine is 111 on my local subnet mask 192.168.0.101. So in the backend, we're going to use Burp Suite over here. And over here, I use NetDiscover to identify the IP address of my server, which was PCS system. और जो कि IP address थी आपकी 111. So यहाँ पे जो पहले first of all मैं scanning करूँगा nmap scan. So yes, loads SC with capital SV plus the T4 and the IP address. So the IP address is 192.168.0.111, and I can see over here the scan has been done, and we can see the port 80, which is currently open over there, which is Apache server. We note that this is the basic one. So there was RPC, remote procedure calls. So some of the applications are running in the backend process, and you can see some IP address and the protocols. Some are working with the 33148, which is a UDP port. Some are working with the 37646, which is your UDP6 also. And through the RPC, we can simply identify some of the applications that are running in the backend. And over here, we can see there is a port number 3306 also, which has open, and its status is MySQL server. So the MySQL plus the version 5.5.47 plus we can see what are the steps they are going to use over here in the upcoming sessions. So in my case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Nicto also to identify the services. So Nicto, I fetch the IP, the host and the IP address. So Nicto is basically going to use for identifying the misconfiguration directories or the hidden links, you can say. So what we can see, it's an Debian-based normal thing. XSS protection header is not defined. But X content type is header is not set. Okay, X content type header option is not set. And what we can see in the backend that there is a config.php file. And it's revealing that config.php file contains some database IDs and passwords. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do over here, we're gonna look for further things one by one. So we find login.php file also there. And the scan has been done. So over here, what do we got? We got config.php file, which is PHP file contain may database IDs and password over here. And what else we have? We have image directory and icon.readme directory, which is the default file of the Apache server. And what else we have? We have a login.php file. Before the attacking part, what I'm going to do, I'm going to look for the specific vulnerability over there. So for that case, I'm going to look for services. Let's try Derbuster also. So Derbuster is to identify the number of directories on the server side. So let's copy the URL and let's paste it over here. Number of threads according to me, and the dictionary that we're gonna use. So dictionary जो हम use करेंगे वो हमारा normal user share word list, and we're gonna use Derbuster. Let's use a medium one. Let's start. So the main objective of nmap or scanning, you have to specify all the things in a proper note for the report writing. So अगर मैं बात करूँ यहाँ पे आपका Nicto भी है, Nicto में आप देख सकते हो कि यहाँ पे php.config फाइल थी और एक login.php फाइल थी. So और क्या क्या फाइल मिलती है हमें देखते हैं. तो अगर मैं यहाँ पे देखूँ, यहाँ पे index.php फाइल भी है जो कि नॉर्मल वेब सर्वर में होती है. php फाइल which is 200, upload.php फाइल, icons files, upload files, config php, login php. So over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 things which is over here. एंड अगर आप डरबस्टर पे देखो, डरबस्टर में आप you can see properly there is a proper tree segment, an index PHP, an upload PHP, and a login PHP, and a swipe PHP. So what we're gonna do over here, we're gonna try to look one by one all the things what we can find on the server side. जब भी आप स्कैन करो तो सबसे पहले देखो कि कौन कौन से सर्विसेज चल रहे हैं, क्योंकि बैनर ग्राफिक सबसे ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. Then we look for the misconfiguration services, just like your config.php file, login.php file, or we can see Derbuster. There is one more tool. Let's see if it's available on a Uniscan. Okay, apt get install Uniscan. Unable to locate the Uniscan. Uniscan is one of the best. Okay, sorry. Error. Okay, so what is happen over here? Break metal, but not install. Okay, I guess the Uniscan is not over there, so we can see server status code, which is 403, and we can see server status over here, and the scan is almost completed. So what I'm gonna do over here, I'm gonna check on the server side. So we are on the server. Let's see the source code if you can find something. Over here we have a reference of page is equal to login. This server is to upload and share images file inside the intranet. So it's a local server. And over here we can see it's gonna, okay, this is source code. Let's move to the login page. As per the data, login.page is equal to login. So page is equal to login. So some of the file which is coming from the server side, कुछ फाइल्स जैसे मैंने लिखी यहाँ पे पेज है, पेज आपके जो पैरामीटर है जिसमें एक login.php फाइल थी, जैसे as per the data. यहाँ पे कौन सी फाइल्स है आपकी, इंडेक्स फाइल, अपलोड फाइल, कॉन्फिग फाइल एंड लॉगिन फाइल. सो सबसे पहले यहाँ पे देखता हूँ कि यहाँ पे क्या क्या चीजें हो सकती हैं. जैसे कि यहाँ पे दे रखा है यूजर नेम एंड पासवर्ड. तो बैकएंड में माईसीक्वल पे चल रहा है फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल. तो लेट्स ट्राई यहाँ पे वल्नरेबिलिटी है कि नहीं. तो मैं यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन मार्क डाल के बैकस्लैश डाल के देखता हूँ. लॉगिन फेल्ड. सो लेट्स पुट और वन फंक्शन 1 इज इक्वल टू 1. तो ये डाल के देखते हैं. So the login failed. तो यहाँ पे जो vulnerability आपकी बेसिकली यहाँ पे आपकी vulnerability है LFI की vulnerability, local file inclusion vulnerability. Let's read about some of the common vulnerabilities. LFI vulnerability. So some of the websites are your NetSparker. So what is LFI vulnerability first of all? Remote file inclusion and local file inclusions. These are the two common vulnerabilities of your file inclusion vulnerability. Are the vulnerabilities that are often in poorly written web application. It means the code. The vulnerabilities occur when a web application allows the user to submit input into a files or upload files on the server side. Input as a file. So over here, input as a file is like this. This is a file for server side. And upload a file in the server. So upload a file in a server is like the file upload vulnerability. So what is the difference between the LFI and an RFI? Remote file inclusion is a vulnerability most often found in PHP running websites. And local file vulnerability is very like RFI. The only difference is that LFI, the attacker has to upload the malicious script to target server to execute the locally. So अगर मैं बात करूँ, यहाँ पे बहुत सारे तरीके होते हैं जो आप इसको आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हैं कि उसमें LFI की वल्नरेबिलिटी है कि नहीं. Or you can see how to examine LFI. So they have given lots of websites. We can see the first one. The very first thing is to understand how the LFI works. See this one. What happened when there is no effective filtering? HTTPS examplesite.com module is equal to contact.php. A file from the server side can be changed into etc password. As you can see, the contact.php is a part of the code was replaced with the etc password username information. The attacker can see the content, everything depends on where we are looking for. That's not all, as most cases include the injection of the code where there is the server. You can see lots of things can be happen over there. It's all about the file content which is over here. Help file logger becomes help file is equal to secret.html config file. And suddenly the hacker has access to the password hashes of the http files. Local file inclusion vulnerability are the most common because any of the file which is coming from the server side with the parameter value, we can see download is equal to is also could be LFI. They have given one by one all the things that can be used over there. LFI जो आपकी most common vulnerabilities use होती है आपके server side में. जैसे कि अगर मैं बात करूँ LFI payload. Checklist. We don't have that much of time, so we can simply check all the possibilities over here one by one. तो मैं यहाँ पे क्या करने वाला मैं इस raw packet को I'm going to copy this raw packet and I'm going to save it over here on my desktop, and that would be my exploit folder. So wget fetch the file which is lfi.payload file. The file has been downloaded. और ये जो files हैं, अगर आप यहाँ पे most common चीजें देखो, it's all about // things to get access to the etc password file. So let's try if we can execute any files on the server side. So मैं यहाँ पे इस parameter पे type करूँगा. So for that case, I'm gonna intercept the request. Refresh the package. So over here, I can see the page is equal to login. So I'm gonna simple send this to the intruder. Intruder, why? Because we're gonna perform a brute force attack. We're gonna use some permutation and combinations or a script on specific parameter. So target 192.168.111. The positions you can see. The position where we are gonna select our payload. So there are two parameters: page is equal to parameter and PHP session. So clear tag. So I'm gonna attack on a specific page is equal to part. Why? Because we're gonna perform a brute force attack on a single parameter, and the attack type would be my sniper. As we know, there are 4 types of attacks: sniper, battering ram, pitchfork, or cluster bomb. But we're gonna use sniper because we have a single parameter value to perform. And I'm going to move to the payload type. In the payload type, we can select only one as per the positions. And the payload type would be simplest. So over here, the most important thing what I'm going to do is load the payload. The load the payload means the payload which I have created. So payload lfi.txt file, which we have downloaded yet. So all the payloads words are over here, the permutation combinations. And the options, we're going to set our number of threads or the faster execution we want. Number of threads, number of retries, network failure, pause before retry. Because there are lots of things. So let's start the attack and see what happened. So the payload has been executed. I can see over here, all the payload has been executed over here. This one is the one was blank, and it was showing username and password, a normal password. Okay, we can see here 200 requests, but none of the payload worked. None of the payload worked over here. And why this happened? Because of the filtration part. You can see on the NIC2 parameter, they were saying that the content type option is header is not set. Content type is a part where you can simply examine the request type. For example, the content type would be proceed with the server's response. अगर आप यहाँ पे देखो, मैं इसको रिपीटर के पास भेज रहा हूँ. कंटेंट टाइप जो आपका होता है वो आपके सर्वर साइड में एक आपके क्या बोलते हैं मींस डिस्क्राइब करने के लिए यूज होता है कि आपके कौन से फंक्शन वहाँ पे यूज हो रहे हैं, प्रोग्रामिंग फंक्शन या डेटा सर्विंग टाइप कौन सा यूज हो रहा है. तो यहाँ पे आप देखो, यहाँ पे दे रखा है HTML फाइल. So over here we see that there was not able to allow the packet file, but there is one more thing we can do. If you see any page file on the server side, on the page is equal to, we can use PHP filters. If the LFI payload is not working, you can simply look for the further things, which is your PHP filters. So PHP जो filters आपके जो use होते हैं वो आपको data animation के काम आते हैं. जैसे देखो, what are PHP filters? PHP filters are used to validate and sanitize the external input. The PHP filter extension may has many of the functions needed to checking the user input and the design to make data validation or easier and quicker. So we're gonna use PHP filters for animation part. So over here, let's see what we can get. Okay, yes, this one. See this one. PHP filters, we're gonna use PHP filters to enumerate if we can find some data values over there. और सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट क्या है कि LFI में आपका वो काम कैसे करता है ये देखो. तो अगर आप यहाँ पे देखो, जो आपके दो फंक्शंस सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट होते हैं, allow URL include. allow URL include में क्या होता है कि कोई भी एक अटैकर उस डेटा को मैनिपुलेट या चेंज कर सकता है अगर ये ऑन हुआ तो ये ऑफ होना चाहिए. जैसे कि अगर आप यहाँ देखो, I try to see if I could remotely file by specifying a URL as a parameters. So the allow URL include was tried off, so that time I failed. When I specified the valid PHP page is simply written a normal page as expected. So the solution that allows me to view the source code of the PHP files was to use the function, which is your PHP function. See this one, which works in the available since PHP 5. Index page is equal to जो आपको पैरामीटर वैल्यू स्टार्ट होता है वो यहाँ से स्टार्ट होता है आपका. See, you can see the related articles also to understand how the server works. Over here, you need to understand how the PHP applications works. Plus, the most important thing is the LFI and RFI function. PHP remote file inclusion command shell using. जो कि आपके सर्वर साइड से डेटा मैनिपुलेशन की बात हो रही है. Hardening and securing PHP on Linux. This is the important part which we will see, the PHP information. और अगर आप थोड़ा सा zoom करता हूँ मैं देखो, it will allow all the things one by one. See, allow URL to open. Remote files should not be accessible using open file. File upload. Is all to understand how the relations between it works. और सबसे ज़्यादा important है, you can use the PHP filters convert.base file. और यहाँ पे मैं PHP files हमारे कितने थे? We have PHP files 1, 2, 3, and 4. There was index.php, there was upload.php, there was config.php, and local.php. If they are not using any serialization part. So I'm going to copy this one, and by defaultly, I'm going to use my burp suite and change the value according to this. So let's check. And in the back end, I can see we have a proper base64 encoded code. See why showing us base encoded file? Because we're going to convert the base64 encoded file from the resource index. Otherwise, you can try this one over here also to get a proper valid. Let's try with the index. ये आपके PHP के सोर्स कोड है जो कि आपके base64 encoded स्क्रिप्ट में लिखे हुए हैं. तो मैं इनको कॉपी करके चेक करता हूँ अपने burp suite से. So I'm going to use decoder over here. Let's decode as base64, and we can see the source code over here. And this was all about your index part. It was about index. So let's make a note of this one. तो मैं यहाँ पे index.php कर देता हूँ, ठीक है, हमें जो मिला है डेटा. अब बात आ रही है सिंपल PHP कोड्स की. अब इस PHP कोड में लिखा क्या है? पहले अगर आप ये देखो, multiple multi-angular not implemented yet. Those who are not, which are not from the coding background, they can simply use Google and search for the valid data. What is multi-angular used for? In using several languages depends on the particular, we can say, a script. और अगर आप definitions की बात करें, यहाँ पे multi-angulism. How many languages is multi-angular? See, it's all about the human nature, but in the multi-angular is all about the programming language. How many programming language we can use? So over here you can see set cookie, the set cookie parameter, जो कि आपका header है. Session cookies create करने के लिए. और अगर आप यहाँ पे देखो, यहाँ पे एक language.php फाइल भी है. If set cookies language, then include the language is equal to the file path. तो यानी कि अगर वो cookie server language को accept कर रहा है, तो language के साथ वो command execution यानी कि आप बोल सकते हैं कि एक code execution हो रहा है यहाँ पे cookie parameter में. और यहाँ पे बोल रखा है कि वो implement ही नहीं है, यानी कि अभी तक कोई उसमें कोई security नहीं दे रखी है. include.php फाइल, क्योंकि जो मेन आपकी जो फॉल्ट है वो आपके यहाँ पे कुकी पैरामीटर दे रखा है कि वो प्रॉपर इंप्लीमेंट ही नहीं हुआ आपके क्लाइंट साइड की रिक्वेस्ट पे, यानी कि सेशन बनाने के लिए. बट इसमें भी इसने एक क्या रखा है, इफ लगा रखा है, कंडीशन लगा रखा है कि अगर वो कुकी इज इक्वल टू लैंग्वेज हुआ तो ये तो ठीक है. लेट्स ट्राई टू चेक अनदर फाइल. So over here, I'm going to use the upload file. That was also a PHP file. So let's see upload. And we have the upload right. It was upload.php. So in the upload.php, we can see upload.php session alert. If session user is activated, you must be logging. Okay, that's a normal thing. HTML body tag method is post method. Encrypted type is given multi-part. But over here, the most important thing is to understand this. The whitelisting. They have given allow application. जो आप अपलोड कर सकते हो वहाँ पे, आप JPEG फाइल अपलोड कर सकते हो, JPEG आपकी GIF फाइल अपलोड कर सकते हो, और आप अपने PNG फाइल अपलोड कर सकते हो. ये 4 वाइट लिस्टिंग लगा रखी है वेब सर्वर में. और जो डायरेक्टरी यहाँ पे एक्सपोज करी हुई है वो आपकी अपलोड डायरेक्टरी है, देख रहे हो? Okay, so in upload.php we can see they have given a proper whitelisting part. So थोड़ा सा और नीचे चलते हैं. Let's see config.php file. Okay, let's start with the config. In the config.php file, I can see they have given the server localhost with the username root and they have given a password. It was config.php which has given some database credentials. They have given the server name, which is your local host, which has a username root and the password. Okay, so we're gonna try to enumerate the last thing, which is your login.php also. Let's try this one. So we have a login.php, and what we have, session start requires config.php file. Config.php file where we can see a database over there, a user root and the password. And what else we have? If asset post username and post password. Okay, user, they have given a proper pass. MySQL prepare select star from the user where user is equal to. It's a normal SQL state. But the most important part is that we get the credentials of ID name and password of the MySQL server. MySQL ID name and password we can see over here. As per the data of nmap scan, the port number 3306, which is your OpenSQL, MySQL, is open over there. We can simply get access to the server. For that case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to open MySQL -h stand for host, और host की IP address क्या थी आपकी 1.111 -u root and -p password. So we have a proper access to the server. Why? Because the MySQL server was having an open port, and in the back end of the PHP, I can see there was a clear text password of the MySQL server, which contains config.php file. So in this scenario, what I'm going to do, I'm going to simply enumerate the services over there. So अगर हम एक MySQL database के server में क्या कर सकते हो? सबसे पहले तो show database करते हैं. Show databases. Show database will show us the information like your information schema and the database name was users over there. Think about the logical part. अगर मैं यहाँ पे login.php कर रहा हूँ तो वो डेटा को कहाँ से fetch कर रहा है? config.php file से. You have to understand the core mechanism between the client and the server side. So that time we can simply use it for other further things. So let's use one of the database, which is I'm going to use users database. Database change. Show tables. Okay, we have the table name users over there. Let's use select star from users. And when I select the star, when I simply use the users tables, select star from the users, I can see there were some databases credentials. Your Kent, your Mike, your Ken, which are the users present on that server side. So let's copy this one. So we find some credentials. The most important part is to examine what are those things. These are username with the hash encryptions. Kent, Mike, Ken. So what we can do, these are the hashes. I can copy this one and I'm going to use my hash identifier to examine the hash type. Hash hyphen identifier. And I can see there is no possible recognition part for the hashes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look for the Google. Let's see Google, what Google will help. Let's paste the hash and enter. So when I simply paste the hash on the server side, I can see online tool decode basis report. Okay. Google will also use to identify the hash type. So you can see they already decoded it. Let's try decode the others also. So we have decoded password of Kent, Mike, and King. So let's see what can happen when I simply get access to the user Kent. So ये सारा हटा देता हूँ मैं. Let's go to the login page and let's write Kent over there. Kent and the password. And I can see we are in. And what we have over here, we have a browser with the upload type. Okay. So we know that this is an upload.php file, as we can see the page is equal to. But यहाँ पे पेज इज इक्वल टू क्या दे रखा था कि वहाँ पे आप JPEG, GIF फाइल और PNG फाइल को अपलोड कर सकते हो और कोई फाइल आप अपलोड नहीं कर सकते. तो उस स्टैंडर्ड में मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ, यहाँ पे मुझे एग्जामिन करना पड़ेगा कि मैं इसमें क्या क्या डाल सकता हूँ. I have to examine all the things one by one over here. So the most important thing जो मैं यहाँ पे चेंज करूँगा कि मुझे यहाँ पे एक प्रॉपर फाइल अपलोड करनी है, PHP की फाइल अपलोड करनी है, क्योंकि PHP से हमें एग्जीक्यूशन में रिवर्स शेल मिलेगा. नॉर्मल अगर PHP शेल अपलोड वल्नरेबिलिटी की बात करें तो, बट दे हैव गिवन द वाइड लिस्टिंग कि यहाँ पे सिर्फ JPEG, GIF फाइल और PNG फाइल अपलोड हो सकती है. सो चेक करते हैं. तो मैं यहाँ पे अपने सर्वर में जाता हूँ, टूल्स में यहाँ पे PHP शेल होगा मेरा. So basically अगर मैं यहाँ पे देखूँ the file, the IP address 192.168.0.10 which मेरी IP address है और यहाँ पे port 4448 है. मैंने GIF 98 पहले लगाया था तो मैं ये हटा देता हूँ पहले. Let's try with the shell.php file. क्या होता है देखते हैं. Downloads, tools directory, PHP file, shell.php. File not selected, not allowed extension. Please upload an image only. Okay, ठीक है. एक बार PNG करके देखता हूँ, but ये कोई useless होगा. Let's try with this one. वो ट्राई करते. php.png double extension vulnerability. So it will execute both the queries, not selected. So let's use GIF. Okay, so I'm gonna upload this one, but proxy on the appointment. So let's over see what we can see over here. Okay, remove this one. There's a proper content type. See. So what I'm gonna do over here, I'm gonna change the request to the repeater, and some. Let's see क्या होता है यहाँ पे. 200 ओके आ रहा है, बट यहाँ पे एरर 002 आ रहा है, यानी कि ये अपलोड नहीं हो सकता. एंड व्हाट एल्स, बिकॉज सबसे पहले क्या कर रहा है, ये आपके जब भी सोर्स कोड रिव्यू करते हैं तो ये आपका एक्सटेंशन पड़ रहा है, ठीक है, आपका PHP है जिसने से ब्लॉक कर रखा है. तो उस टाइम क्या होता है कि आपको प्रॉपर, अगर आप गिफ फाइल यूज कर रहे हो तो सबसे पहले आपको गिफ का आर्किटेक्चर देना पड़ेगा यहाँ पे, जो कि गिफ यहाँ पे जो यूज होता है, गिफ 98 यूज होता है. सी दिस वन. Sorry. Yes, the source has been uploaded. See over here. A little bit of space over here with the GIF 98. And we can see upload.gif has been uploaded. So let's see, show response in browser. Proxy को बंद कर देते हैं. Let's try this over here. And we can see the file has been uploaded properly. Cross verification कर लेते हैं. Inspect element में जाके. तो अगर आप वहाँ पे देखो, the file is over there. Upload directory with the file type, जो कि आप अगर यहाँ पे भी देखो repeater में, that would be same. So the file has been uploaded, but अब बात आती है कि इसको execute कैसे करूँगे. Execute. Let's see the very first thing जो हमने निकाला था index.php में, जहाँ पे ये मैंने साफ लिखा हुआ था कि there is a multi-angular application can be executed and the cookie parameter is not set. Or cookie parameter will be executed if they are using language as a parameter. The language part. Let me show you one thing. For example, let's use this one. So I'm going to use interception and request a packet. So as per the data, they said the cookie parameter is not set, and if you want to use implement the cookie parameter, you have to set cookie language over there. So let's see one thing. Let's remove this one entire case, and I'm going to use language as their set. The language parameter was not implemented. Language.php की बात हो रही है यहाँ पे. So let's change the repeater mode. यहाँ पे करते हैं. Let's see if we can escalate our privileges. etc password. let's see over here with the two default part. Yes. Now I can see the etc password file which contains all the user, because the language PHP part was not implemented. ये cookie parameter में अगर वो language tab को implement करता तो attacker उसको data के लिए fetch कर सकता था, जिसमें यहाँ पे दे रखा था कि language setting नहीं था वहाँ पे. etc password, and which contains all the usernames over here one by one. If you see. So in this scenario, what we're gonna do? We're gonna execute our payload from here. तो मेरा जो payload का जो netcat listener on कर देता हूँ 4448. Why? Because we're gonna execute this payload type which we have uploaded. Let's copy this one and let's paste it over here. So we have uploaded it, the directory of the file, and let's send. What happened? The payload has been executed over there, and we have a proper shell on the server side. And why this happened? Because the language parameter was not verified over there. The include function is important. Remember, जो मैंने आपको बताया था कि include function से हम सब कुछ हमारे वो होता है page is equal to, क्योंकि वो डेटा को fetch कर रहा है, फाइल को fetch कर रहा है, फंक्शन को कॉल करा रहा है, जिसके थ्रू आप LFI vulnerability को मैं execute कर पाया. And through that I can simply examine there was an etc password to access. See, the most important thing is to understand how an attacker will get entered to the server side, because of the poor configurations or the poor written code on the server side. So in this scenario, we have to check one by one all the things that we can see over here. सबसे पहले this is fine for us. Because we have a proper server access. So what I'm going to do, post exploitation phase cover. So let's use got milk. Got milk and pair to. So over here we can see basic Linux privilege escalation part. It's all about post exploitation phase, where you have to collect enumeration, more enumeration, and some more enumeration. Process, search, adapt, and try. So सबसे पहले तो मैं यहाँ पे Python server लूँगा, because we need a terminal, a TTY. If the commands are limited, you can break the jail shell. So let's see which Python. So we are www data, but I'm going to change the username. Why? Because we already have the credentials we need. So let's use Kent, SU Kent, and we are Kent on the server side. Let's see sudo -l, check the permissions. Sudo command not found. Let's see where we are. Export term xterm. Let's see where we are. We are on the home directory. Let's see cd home, lsf and all. So we have John, we have Kent, we have Mike. So let's see if we can jump to the John directory. No permission. Can, nope. CD Kent, yes we have. Over there I can see only a bash file with the logit and the bash rc file and some of the programming over there. So over here we're gonna look for some of the vulnerabilities that can be exposed over there. So in this scenario, the most important part, let's change the user. Let's use sucan. So cd can pwd, yes, clear cd can, yes we are on can. Okay, on the cdcan I can see what there is sudo executable files. Okay, we have message to Mike command. So over here we have a sudo executable file. So let's see what we can do over here. Exploring sudo executable. Sudo executable, which stands for set identity, is a Linux feature that allows user to execute a file with the permission of a specific user. Okay. For example, the Linux ping command typically requires root permission in order to open a raw network socket by making the ping program as a sudo executable. So I guess we already know about the sudo executable running an application instead of someone else. SUID is a feature that, when it's used properly, actually enhance the Linux security. The problem is that administrators may unknowingly introduce dangerous SUID configurations that they need install third-party applications. Large number of system admins doesn't understand where to set the security bit files, where not. So we can identify, we can use find param files to print out all the sudo executable files. Let's see if we can run over here. Yes, there was a message to Mike file. But उस message of Mike file में है क्या पहली बात तो? So यहाँ पे cat करते हैं. There are some garbages over here. And what I can see over here, they have given a small permission that in that specific file there is a cat file with the home directory with a Mike message.txt file. Okay, in that specific server, in the home directory of the Mike, there is a message.txt file. But हमारे पास तो Mike का पासवर्ड है, चेक करते हैं, Mike su करके देखते हैं, su Mike and the password. Authentication failure. Now we need that. Okay, now it's all about sudo executable. तो यहाँ पे मैं देख सकता हूँ कि वहाँ पे एक फाइल चल रही है कि message.txt फाइल. तो सबसे पहले तो ये जो message.txt फाइल है, पहले देखता हूँ कि किस चीज़ की फाइल है. क्या मैं इसको वेरिएबल कर सकता हूँ? Permission denied. Okay, ठीक है. But that file is running as user Mike. और ये जो फाइल है वो क्या कर रहा है? ओपन करा रहा है cat कमांड से. ओके, सो cat कमांड से कोई वो फाइल ओपन करा रहा है msg.txt फाइल. तो मैं यहाँ पे जो vulnerability यूज करूंगा वो मैं यहाँ पे एक फीचर है आपका exploiting user with dot in their path. जब भी हम कोई एप्लीकेशन को रन करते हैं तो हम ./ करते हैं ना, बट कुछ कुछ फाइल ऐसे होती हैं जिसमें आप सिंपल उसका नाम लिख के उसको एग्जीक्यूट करा सकते हैं कोई भी बाइनरी पाथ से. Having dot in your path means that the user is able to execute the binary script from the current directory. To avoid having the two extra character every time, the user add dot to their path, which is a binary path. And that can be excellent method for attacker to escalate their privileges. For example, they said Suzanne in an administrator and she added dot in her path, so she doesn't have to write, just like your with dot you have to write the name, without dot you have to write ./ but इसमें आपको फाइल पाथ में होना पड़ेगा. तो यहाँ पे सिनेरियो को देखा, this happened because the Linux first searches for the program in the current directory. When dot is added in the path it beginning and then search for anywhere else. करंट डायरेक्टरी में आपको फाइंड करने के लिए ./ यूज करेगा ही पड़ेगा, बट जब उसे नहीं मिले तो वो पूरे सब जगह फाइंड करके देखेगा कि वो फाइल है कहाँ पे. तो यहाँ पे जो दे रखा है, another user Shahid knows that the student has added dot in her path because she is lazy. क्योंकि उसको बार बार उस फोल्डर में नहीं जाना और सिंपल उसको एग्जीक्यूट नहीं करना, तो उसने क्या किया, उसने डॉट अपने फाइल एलिमेंट में लिख दिया था. Rashid tells Suzanne that the ls command is not working in the directory. List command is not working in a specific directory. Rashid added a code in his directory which will change the sudo files and make him administrator. sudo files क्या है, जहाँ पे आपकी सारी की सारी permissions होती हैं users की. Rashid stored that code is file name as ls. एक फाइल बनाई, उसके अंदर ls के नाम से बना दी उसने, and make it executable. Suzanne has not you can say privilege. Suzanne has root privileges. She came and execute ls command instead of Rashid directory. रशीद के डायरेक्टरी में आके उसने सीधा ls कमांड एग्जीक्यूट करा, और ls कमांड में क्या था आपका, वो malicious कोड था. Instead of the original ls command, the malicious code gets executed with the root access. Instead of file saved as arrays, a code has been added which can be print hello world. Simple. तो ये जो आप पाथ वेरिएबल्स कैसे सेट करते हो, आपको पूरा पाथ सेटअप करना पड़ेगा. यहाँ पे पाथ डॉट डॉट वेरिएबल $पाथ, जहाँ पे आपको पाथ सेव करना है और उस पाथ का लोकेशन, जैसे इसने सेव कर रखा है. डॉक्यूमेंट सेटिंग में जाके एक्सपोर्ट पाथ और इको पाथ करने के लिए. तो अगर आप यहाँ पे देखो ls execute the .ls फाइल instead of running list फाइल, आप खुद सोचो ना कि अगर आप यहाँ पे ls फाइल करते हो क्या आपको .ls करना पड़ता है. That specific ls file contains a malicious piece of code. तो मेरा जो काम है कि यहाँ पे जो उसने cat कमांड से जो फाइल ओपन करा रहा है, मैं cat कमांड में एक malicious स्क्रिप्ट लिख दूंगा, और वो स्क्रिप्ट कहाँ लिखूंगा, मैं temp डायरेक्टरी में लिखूंगा, जिसमें कोई भी यूजर उस पर एग्जीक्यूट कर सकता है. तो temp डायरेक्टरी में चलते हैं, cd temp डायरेक्टरी, cd tmp. तो वहाँ पे मेरे एक नॉर्मल फाइल है गिफ फाइल, जो कि हमने इंस्टॉल किया था. तो यहाँ पे मैं क्या करने वाला हूँ, यहाँ पे मैं एक फाइल क्रिएट करूंगा अपने नॉर्मल फाइल से. सो टेम्प डायरेक्टरी में मैं यहाँ पे एक फाइल बनाऊंगा इको के नाम, इको से, वो है bin bash यानी कि tty, और फाइल को मैं डाल रहा हूँ cat कमांड, bin bash a malicious code on the folder cat. अब मैं इसको परमिशन दूंगा चेंज मोड 7777 रीड एंड राइट एंड एग्जीक्यूट, रीड एंड एग्जीक्यूट ऑन ls फंक्शन. सभी को दे दिया मैंने, जिसमें रूट को भी दे रखा है मैंने. बट ये जो फाइल है, इस फाइल में मुझे आपको पता है कि इसमें देयर इज अ malicious piece of code of the attacker type. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to exclude the file path variable. So अगर कोई भी कैट रन करेगा तो उसका क्या रन होगा, फाइल जो कि आपके msg.txt फाइल. सो एक्सपोर्ट जो पाथ वेरिएबल्स है हमारा इज इक्वल टू जो हमारी फाइल हमने क्रिएट करी है वो टेम्प डायरेक्टरी में है, और आपका डॉलर वेरिएबल्स. सो एक्सपोर्ट पाथ वेरिएबल जो मैंने यहाँ पे यहाँ पे इम्प्लीमेंट कर रहा हूँ वो मेरे सिंपल टेम्प डायरेक्टरी में कर रहा हूँ जो कि कैट फाइल है. So let's hit enter and done. So यहाँ पे अगर मैं जो करूँगा, आप देखो यहाँ पे आपको रीड राइट एंड एग्जीक्यूट फंक्शन आ गई है. तो अगर कोई भी कैट कमांड चलाएगा, जैसे मैं यहाँ पे कैट कमांड चलाऊं, इट्स रनिंग नॉर्मल थिंग. कैट इट्स नॉर्मल रनिंग. बट ये जो कैट फोल्डर में यहाँ पे रन कर रहा हूँ वो मैं सिंपल उसकी MSG फाइल को भी रन करा सकता हूँ. जैसे कि अगर आप यहाँ पे देखो, मैं यहाँ पे नॉर्मल वेरिएबल्स डिक्लेयर करूंगा डबल एंड के साथ. डबल एंड क्यों कर रहा हूँ? बिकॉज मल्टीपल पैरामीटर्स. और जो फाइल थी हमें MSG माइक. So now I simply jump to the user mic over here. Because अगर आप यहाँ पे cat command run करोगे अब, you will see the user mic only. Cat command is basically used to open the file, but in the cat command now it's bin bash. और यहाँ पे जो मैंने इसका path variable change किया था, अगर कोई भी cat command अभी सर्वर में रन करेगा, वो as a bin bash रन होगा, जो कि आपके Python जो मैंने स्क्रिप्ट यहाँ पे इम्प्लीमेंट की है. Let's see in the home directory, cd home. Let's see cd mic. Again we have a sudo executable files with a message to root. See, let's see what is this. What is this file? Message to root. Okay, ये सीधा सर्वर के पास जाएगा. Hello root. Okay, it's a normal file which is going to the root directory. क्योंकि यहाँ पे root permission है, देख रहे हो? Specific user as per the sudo executable files. Again, we have a proper sudo executable. So, सोचो अगर आप कोई मैसेज क्रिएट कर रहे हो या कोई भी डेटा डाल रहे हो, so what you can do? You can simply execute any of the further commands. एक कमांड के साथ दूसरे कमांड को ज्वाइन कर सकते हो आप. जैसे कि मान लो कि मैं यहाँ पे मैसेज टू रूट लिखता हूँ, हेलो, बट मैं यहाँ पे एक और चीज करूंगा, मैं एक सिंगल क्वेरी में दो क्वेरी को रन कराऊंगा, तो मैं यहाँ पे डबल एंड कर दूंगा. Because I'm going to add some more functions. More function means bin sh. Bin sh क्यों कर रहा हूँ? Because bin sh is only called from the shell commands, and it's when you are calling a bin sh, it will simply have the permission of user root, क्योंकि ये आपके specific user से काम करता है. Who am I? I am root. ifconfig. There's no ifconfig running. Cool. There's a flag.txt file. Cat flag.txt. जब भी आप cat कमांड यूज करोगे तो वो एज अ bin bash कॉल करेगा. माइक हो गया, मैं फिर से देख रहे हो, क्योंकि cat कमांड में आपने पूरे डेटा को चेंज कर दिया था एज पर द डेटा over there. So over here you have to do only one thing, is to escalate your privileges. Bin cat flag.txt. Now you have to specify the proper path of the binary. If you use cat, you will be simply terminated as user mic. There are lots of things to be understand over here in this machine. There are lots of vulnerabilities to be described.